and welcome to another review by myself, Tom, aka Rodimus Rocks. And today, as promised, we're going to be looking at some Star Wars figures that I own, and these are from the original lines back in the end of the 70s to 80s, made by Kenner. And this motley crew we've got in front of you is the bounty hunters that appear in The Empire Strikes Back, and that's where Darth Vader has them all on his Star Destroyer ready to go off and find Han Solo. So, little rundown from the left and to the right. We've got Zuckuss, 4-LOM, Bossk, Dengar, IG-88, and our fans' favourite really, Mr. Boba Fett. Okay, so we're going to take a little look at each of these individually and sort of go through what there is to them. Okay, so to start off with, we've got the pair here. I put these two as a pair rather than individual because in the stories they actually are a pair of bounty hunters that work together. Say on the left we've got Zuckuss and then 4-LOM. Originally though they were labelled to be this to be Zuckuss and this to be 4-LOM, which is clearly wrong because the sort of definition of 4-LOM is to do with this sort of cybernetics and robots in Star Wars. So there we go. I mean, back in the 70s, well, this one is, I think it's 80, middle of the 80s, isn't it, with the Empire Strikes Back, but they are a lot different than the toys we've got now. All of them have got like no articulation. All you can do is move their heads, arms up and down and left and right. But I mean, they were pretty much the first action figures to come out like this sort of size and have a full range really of them, and especially to matching with the sort of film. Oh, his weapon's just dropped off there. So I mean, this is, as I say, this is Zuckuss, but would have been known as 4-LOM on the packaging. He's got this material here. I'm not quite sure what it is. It's like 70s like tablecloth or something, but they've made his little costume out of that. So you don't really get that much these days. I think the latest casts of this with the vintage line that's come out, they are sort of all plasticky and things like that. But he's got a little harness here. This is his little breathing apparatus as he sort of breathes strange alien air. So there he is. Take a little look at him. And he's a really nice figure. He's stood the test of time. You've got to think this thing's nearly coming up to sort of 30-40 years old. And I've kept him in quite good nick really. So they're all packaged up usually in little bubble wrap and things like that. So I'll pop him to the side. Just give him his weapon back. And then we have 4-LOM here. And as I say, to confuse him more, that was originally Zuckuss. Another one of the little errors that sort of happened with the toy line. This toy line's great really for errors and things like that happened, and where they didn't have any communication between the guys making the toys and the people making the films and things. So there's loads of little things here. I mean, his body on there, if you take a look from the head, that's pretty much like a CP3O type body. It's all grey, and then he's got this weird sort of alien sort of cyborg head. If I bring him up to camera, he's got a little red nose. I think that's starting to fade a little bit now. But this guy, out of all the sort of bounty hunters, he's got like the biggest weapon. They never held these weapons too great. That's the only way he's going to hold it, a bit like sort of G1 Prime, sort of off angle. So, but he's a great figure. They look all together. They look a real good motley crew. So there he is. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next bounty hunter now. Okay, so next up we have this chap here, Bossk, and he is a sort of reptilian bounty hunter. This guy also originally did have quite a lot of vehicles for my Star Wars toys, but I sold most of those off because they just take too much space off. This bloke did have like a little non-movie vehicle, like sort of scout collector thing with like arms, so you have to check that out on the internet. I'll give you some links at the end where to sort of look up further information on these toys. But he's got a nice little underarm rifle there, like a sort of shotgun. They all stand up really well. As I say, articulation you're not going to be looking at very much. It is really arms, head and legs, but they all stand up great on there by themselves really. They don't have any weight issues. The moulding on is really nice. I mean, they do have some detail, nice paintwork. He started to get a bit dirty and grubby, but for a bounty hunter he's got like a creepy smile, so it's pretty good. So there he is. Okay, so just give him a little spin. There we are. Right, so moving on to the next bounty hunter in the line. Okay, so next up we have this chap here, Dengar. In the stories, as far as I can remember, he's sort of like a clone. Almost before they started really going into the cloning information of what was available back in the old, compared to the current films, the 1, 2 and 3, and the Clone Wars. So he's obviously some sort of like stormtrooper clone that's just become like a bounty hunter. He's got this weird like head wrap. He, out of all of them, started to fade the most, I think obviously due to the sort of white plastic on there, but he still moves. And he again's got a pretty good big gun. These guns are kind of interchangeable with some of them, but a lot of the Star Wars hands are sort of, with these sort of models, they were designed just to hold the sort of one gun, but some of them are interchangeable. A lot of guns were just reproduced and put in different colours, which I'll show you in a moment on the next bounty hunter. But this is Dengar. He's probably out of all of them. He's probably the sort of most boring in my opinion. Sort of, although he's got quite a lot of detail and things you can see on there on his backpack and things. He's just not very exciting. He doesn't really look very happy. He's sort of, you know, who they made me a figure, great. But again, when you put them all together, they do look great, and they sort of help sort of show that scene that you have in Empire Strikes Back. Oh, he's struggling to stand up. So that's my theory proven wrong. No, there we go. So he's great. Okay, next one we'll move on to. Okay, so this is my personal favourite out of the bunch of bounty hunters, and this is IG-88. And he's double loaded. He's both gets a massive rifle and a shorter one. This particular rifle here is pretty much a stormtrooper rifle, and they just sort of recoloured it blue for him. IG-88, I think he's a pretty cool character in the actual books. There's a book out there that has sort of origin plots of each of these characters. I can't remember. It's just under the Star Wars sort of paperbacks, and sort of explains how he came into existence and sort of fought back. So he's quite a cool character. I think he appears in another movie, another franchise, like in some sort of film where there's a load of dead robots and they just use the body of him. So he does pop up now and again, but he's pretty cool. He's got double weapons. Again, it's just sort of same old articulation really, just the legs and the arms. But he's quite menacing. He's got this weird sort of no face. He's just got two little beady eyes. Yeah, it's quite protruding. Some sort of like evil tin man basically. So there he is. As I say, he's my favourite. He dominates. When I compare him in size to the other ones, he's pretty massive really as well. So he means business. And we'll finally move on to the last one, and probably everyone's favourite, and that's Mr. Boba Fett. Okay, so here he is, Mr. Boba Fett. This is the guy that, you know, became so cult overnight. It was unbelievable, really. This figure is infamous for having a sort of a missile that comes out of the back that doesn't actually fire. And as you see with the vintage ones that are coming out now, they have the little label that you send away, and you get the firing one. You can never actually get that with Boba Fett. And there are a couple of prototypes out in existence, and they're worth absolute fortune. But even one like these figures these days, I'm not entirely sure what they're worth anymore. I think the market did sort of drop really. But I've got some bit of paint problems here. There's little two scratches on the front of him. They kind of look like battle armor, sort of battle damage on there, but I don't mind that too much. But getting a good Boba Fett in a nice condition is quite hard to come by. They also did release, back in the original sort of line, they did release a sort of 6-inch, 12-inch. Sorry, yeah, I think it's about, yeah, sort of say 9-inch sort of figures of Boba Fett. And you can get a hold of one of those in good condition. They're worth absolute bomb, but they're really nice. And the detailing on Boba Fett was great. I mean, really back then, you don't know if the camera brings it out too much, but he's got some sort of bubbling there on his shoulders. And the backpack's really nice, but you could see where the mechanism would have gone was going to go into here, and it would sort of slide back and then hook into there, and you'd release it and the missile would fire. I think some people have modified him as well to get that working, but other than that, I don't want to touch Boba Fett. I think he stands a test of time, and he looks still really good. So all I'd recommend really is, this is my first one with Star Wars. I'm not entirely sure what to label it under, so I mean, if any of you guys can come up, and it'd be great. I mean, when I was going to put it under vintage because that's what we used to know the line as, but now Star Wars and Kenner have started bringing out the vintage line, which is pretty much the same as these guys, done up now but with like the original packaging on there. So they're really nice. I don't have any of those. I'd like to get a couple and see what they're like. If you need any further reading, I would suggest an author called Stephen J. Sansweet, and he's got a whole host of books out there to do with these particular figures, and that will get you going from there. And I hope to show you some more of my collection very soon. So I hope you've enjoyed this review, and until then, see you later.